Definitely want to thank, we do have two sponsors. Sponsored the event today. So we've got Loan Depot and we've got Millennial Title are here. So so the way this is going to roll, it's going to be two parts. So the first part, going to talk with Greg here about his real estate investing journey, how he got into the business. So you've got some context for where he's at and what he's doing. Then we'll take a break. We'll let you guys walk around the property here, and then we'll speak specifically about the project, what's going on. We're going to check out this one here, and then we're actually going to take a walk through the development to another property that they've got. So that'll be the second half. So we will be done by noon. I want to respect you guys' time. And, most importantly, I want to honor you guys for driving out here on a Saturday. A lot of things that you guys could be doing, and just super grateful that you're here and, investing time into the business. So I know that's one of the important things and opportunities that we all have. Where you spend your time is most important. And I just want to honor you guys for investing time on your day and your weekend to come out and be here to learn from one of the great real estate, investors that's in the business. And super excited. How many of you guys know Greg personally? You know Greg?
Cool.
Yeah? Okay, cool. So we got a little bit of a mix, but I'll let Greg introduce himself. But Greg is a guy that I've met through real estate investing, but also at the intersection of faith and business. So we've connected at a number of events in and around real estate and toolbox lunches, things like that. And so Greg is a great family man. And the thing I love about Greg is he's not afraid to go small. Okay. Mm-hmm. So Greg is all about going big and making a big impact in a very short period of time. So in the world of real estate investing, there's a lot of different ways to get started. There's a lot of different places where you can go. My background, I started 9 years ago in wholesaling, and I became an acquisition specialist. So that's how I got started in the business, and that was 9 years ago. Greg will share with you about how he got started, but to be at the different levels of this business, I think what Greg is doing here is probably from a scale perspective at the top. So if you look at wholesaling, flipping, buy and holds, rentals, Airbnb, short-term rentals, any of that stuff, new construction, multifamily, community development, I would almost put near the top. I don't know how much higher you can go outside of billion-dollar funds and on the equity side. But what Greg is doing here, community development, production home building, is super unique. He's the only guy that I know that's in the greater Houston area that's doing this on the scale as an independent real estate entrepreneur. You guys understand that? Super unique. So with that being said, super excited to, introduce you to Greg. And Greg, thank you for hosting us here today and super fired up, man. So if you want to share a little bit about your story, your background, just let the people know.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Thank y'all for coming out again. This is Greg. My name is, I'm doing it like I'm on social media. I had to cut it off. All right. I'm Greg Monette. I'm the VPLN. I'm one of the partners in Hart Homes. We're a production home building company, and we also do land development and subdivision development just like this here. And I want to say this too, it's been a grind, it's been a hustle for me personally, and I'll share my personal journey and stuff like that too. But I couldn't do this without my team. And so Luke Garcia, he's one of the best in the game. Him and Saad Aziz, they came up with the idea to start Hart Homes. Luke's got so many years of experience. He's built 1,000 something houses. And he's one of the best in the industry. And I wouldn't have been able to take my career, from where I started on the acquisition side, wholesaling, buying lots, trying to do it out. I couldn't do it without a good partner. And that's something I'm gonna repeat over and over again. If you don't have the experience or you don't have the knowledge of trying to get where you're trying to get to, make sure you partner up with people that do have the experience. Because, there's a lot of people, you're learning how to do it. But look, if you want to take your game to the next level, you got to partner with people that are like-minded, and you got to partner with people that know what they're doing and they have experience, and somebody that you gel well with and you can work well with. So Luke was one of the guys that I met when I was at Lennar. They had started the company, and we just gelled. You know, we started doing some deals together, and then eventually I was like, you know what? I can make more bread working with them. You know, I learned the blueprint from Lennar. Let's go ahead and do our thing, you know? And then Jorge, he's on the sales side. He used to work at LGI, one of the top builders in the nation. He worked for First America, and now he works for us. And the biggest thing that I want to point out to y'all is, as an entrepreneurial startup company, you have to invest a lot in the early days. You know, some of us took huge paychecks to invest in this. We spend so much time away from our families, and sometimes I get a little emotional about it. I'm sure Luke does, Jorge does, because it's a journey, and it's a test of faith. And I think entrepreneurship is the biggest test of faith because, excuse me,
You got it.
it's tough. Like it's really tough, right?
Very
You know, even to get here. So we started doing scatter lots before we got here. So which scatter lots is like a lot here, a lot there, kind of like your fix and flippers, right? We had to start off somewhere. So we started off doing scatter lots. We had communities in Anahuac, Cleveland, Dayton. And if y'all are not familiar with those areas, each of those are like 30 miles apart. So we had a construction manager driving from Cleveland to Anahuac to Dayton. I'm talking about he filling up his dually 3 times a week, you know, every single week. You know, so something like that, you got to have special people that work with you if you want to grow your company, you know, because it's not for everybody. And so Luke, you know, he took it on the chin and he grinded it out, and we got to the point where we are today. Jorge, he joined us a little bit later, and now, you know, he took his faith, he took his skill set, and he invested it in our company and stuff too. And so that's why we're able to get where we are today. So I want to say that before I talk about my journey, you know, because it's these guys, and then Saad Aziz, he's one of the co-founders. He'll be here later to talk about it. But I just want to say if
Can I ask you a quick question?
yes,
The scatter plots, did you use those to build or did you use those to wholesale?
to build, yeah.
So you built and then resold?
Yes. Yeah. So I guess I'll kind of talk about like the Hart Homes journey and how we got where we are. So we did the scatter lots. We were
Before you get into that,
sorry.
talk about your journey
Oh,
first. so we
sorry.
can get to
Sorry.
the-
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, I spent about 5 years in commercial banking. I knew for some reason I wanted to go back to my community and rebuild my neighborhood. I didn't grow up in the best area of town. And so it was real, like my classmate, Brian, he can kind of attest to it. Excuse me. But it's just, I always knew I wanted to give back to my community some kind of way and build houses. So that was always in my mind, but I never knew what path that I wanted to go on. Even this was a hidden gem for me. Okay, and I'll get on that too. So I did lending, commercial lending for home builders, set up lines of credits, did some subdivision development stuff, some commercial, all of that. And when I started working with some home builders, I was like, you know, I think I can do this. I see how they set up lines of credit. You know, they'll get something called G-locks. Y'all write that down. Guidance lines of credit is basically like you get pre-approval for a certain amount, certain loan terms and stuff, but you have a bucket that you can use to fund your construction deals. So I would see that, and I see, you know, how much money they was making. I'm like, man, you know, I want to make that bread too, you know? And so while I was at the bank, I used to do wholesale deals. I used to do flipping. I used to do all this stuff, but I didn't know about land development, you know? So it wasn't until I was at an Urban Land Institute event. We was in a mentorship group, and we had a happy hour with my 6 group members. And so one of the guys, his car got towed, and everybody else had left. And so he ended up calling me. And mind you, we weren't that cool. We was in a group, but we weren't like boys like that. And I'm gonna tell y'all why I say that. So he called me. I ended up picking him up, bringing him to the tow yard. And then in that meeting, or in that drive, I just happened to talk to him and say, hey man, what do you do? How'd you like? And he's like, yeah, I work for this land developer, Caldwell Development, a really big developer that does stuff like this. And he's like, yeah, I'm in the Master Land and Property Development Program. You should check it out, this and that. Mind you, that conversation probably wouldn't have happened if I wouldn't open my mouth. And that's a big thing that y'all gonna hear me say throughout this, thing. So because I found out about that, I got in the Master Land and Property Development program at Texas A&M, and that's why I learned about subdivision development. Again, a hidden gem. And it wasn't by the grace of God that I found out about this through this guy, because again, out of 6 people that he could have called, he called me. That's a God thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a God thing. Because I literally, my wife called me, she's like, you need to be home so I should have been home an hour before, you know what I mean? And he could have called all 5 other people, but it just happened that I was just hanging out there, just in my car scrolling, and he just happened to call me. And that's how I ended up learning about land development. And so that kind of pivoted me from commercial banking to working at Lennar, or Friendswood Development, the land side. And so from there, I worked there for almost a year. We learned about the systems and processes and all that. And then I met Luke, Saad. We started doing some deals on the side. We originally thought we were going to do about 12 or 15 houses. And then we were fortunate to meet my high school baseball coach, who introduced us to an investor that helped us to scale from 12 to 50 homes in our first year. And that's a God thing too, because my high school baseball coach, I hadn't talked to him for 10 something years. And he randomly called me. He was like, hey, I got this deal in Port Arthur. You want to look at it? And then he's like, hey, I got this investment group I want to introduce you to. They need some builders. And that's what helped us to get from our first 4 homes in the first year to about 50 last year by that.
So when you're on this journey, like there's a couple things I just want to, hear. Obviously, hearing how much relationships, how important those are.
Yes. Yes.
Also, for you, in addition to those relationships, how important is it for you to be in the right rooms with people that are doing the same things? Like you talked about it was like a mastermind, or like it was a group that you joined. Like, why is it important to continually be investing in your time into those groups?
Yeah. So, and honestly, that's really the only reason that I was able to, or our company has been able to grow so fast, is because of those relationships. Naturally, I'm an introvert. I know y'all probably couldn't tell it, but naturally I'm an introvert. But just over 3 years or so, 3 years or so of just making sure, like, hey, you pull up to events once or twice a week. I don't care if you nervous. I don't care if you don't feel like it. You need to go. Put it on the calendar, pay for it, and go. Show up. Because you never know at the end of the day who you're going to meet, who's going to be your next investment partner, who's going to be your investment partner, like capital partner. Like, you never know who you're going to meet. But you got to make sure that you in those rooms. And look, I'll tell y'all this. Look, as a minority coming from where I came from, it was really difficult for me to suck it up and step into some of those rooms. Even in commercial banking, in accounting, in home building, it was really difficult for me to do that. And I'm telling y'all that because I want y'all to know, like, sometimes you have to push through fear if you want to get to the other side. You have to. And I'm sure you can attest to that as an investor too, as an agent, as like, you just have to make sure you set yourself up for success no matter what. And y'all, as we talk about this project, we'll tell y'all the ins and outs. This wasn't easy. We tried, the biggest thing about Luke and Saad and us together is, like, when we have a problem, we sit in our room together and we figure it out. Even with this, like, this is a big challenge for us to get even these houses on the ground. Like, we bought the land, getting it started, it was a process. Yeah. But you just have to overcome those challenges, and you have to be in the room sometimes too. You got to find the right people that have those solutions as well.
So, and for you, and I think this is the important part, especially on like the entrepreneur journey, like, what is your motivation? Like, even when you don't want to go, like, why do you go? Even though you're an introvert, why do you put yourself in those situations? Even though, like, what is your motivation? Like, what drives you to do all those things ultimately? Because it's easy to say to go to an event, but why are you going to that event? Like, what is event to event to event, going through the challenge? Like, what, for a motivation standpoint, what is that keeps you going?
I think for me, it was just, I know I'm doing something that's, dang, I keep getting emotional. That's crazy.
That's good. That's where it's at.
Yeah. Just for me, I know that that God put me on this earth to do something special. There's a lot of people that are, excuse me. once you get on the journey, you see so many people, and you know, we've seen people like market presidents, people from publicly traded builders, like encouraging us and just like saying, you know, they following our journey, and just like once you get going and you start seeing that you encouraging and inspiring so many people, it's kind of like, man, you got to put your team on your back. You got to do it. You know, like even for me, for instance, like when I got here for this company, it's like, you know, we got our families to feed. We got these trades we got to feed. They need houses. They need land, you know, and it's like, if I don't feel like cold calling, I got to think about them. I got to think about my family. I got to think about, you know, how do I encourage and inspire other minorities that want to be in my situation? Because for me, I didn't know about home building. I didn't know about development. Like a lot of y'all here, it's a hidden like niche, right? And so I feel like I have that obligation to not only do what God, you know, encouraged me to do and to encourage other people, but also to just be a resource and help other people, because I didn't have the resource when I got in the industry. So that's really what keeps me going. It's like, I'm doing this not just for me, but I'm doing it for other people, you know? So,
Can I ask another
yeah.
question?
Yes.
So if you were to tell us, anybody here, any place that you feel would be a good source for us, like events maybe, or clubs or people, connections, do you have anybody that you would recommend?
Yes.
Or do you have, you know, that club or that place that we could call home to get some of those resources?
Yes, 100%. I always tell people, what avenue of real estate?
Like development.
Yeah, do you want to do development? You want to do commercial? You want to do multifamily? You want to do single family? That's more of a conglomerate of real estate focus, all right? If you want to do more home building focus, go to Greater Houston Builders Association. That's probably the biggest one, is Greater Houston Builders Association. Start going to those events. They have development summits. They have new construction. They have custom home. And in that, they have a lot of, the land guys are there, big builders are there, developers are there. Just get in those rooms. Greater Houston Builders Association. And then what I always tell people too is like, get on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the easiest way to get in front of executives. And typically, if you have a good value proposition and you're not just like, hey, I just want to meet you just to meet you, then they'll accept your request, and sometimes they'll have lunch with you. So for me, LinkedIn was probably one of the best tools, because you can get with some of the top brokers, get with some of the top developers, and just pick their brain, you know? So LinkedIn, ULI, Greater Houston Builders Association.
Yeah. No, it's a good question.
Yeah.
So in terms of the timeline for your journey, what does that look like?
Oh, that's been like 5 years. Yeah. So I kind of started off like y'all, like, bought. So I bought a couple fix and flips, did a couple wholesale deals, and I bought some land. I flipped it and stuff. But it wasn't until I bought my first like 5-acre piece of land in Beaumont. I partnered with my brother on it. We purchased it. We chopped it up into 4 lots, and then that got me on to like, okay, I don't want to be fixing toilets. I don't want to be, buying a house and you find so many issues with it. I want to do new construction. Again, I didn't know how I wanted to do it. I just knew I wanted to do it. And I want to express that to y'all too. Sometimes you have to lock in on what you want, your big why, like you asked. What's your big why? What's driving you? Do you want, you want to get out of debt? Do you want to be financially free? Do you want to have an impact? You want to donate to charity? Find out what that is. Once you find out what that is, the way to get there will find itself. All right. So for me, I knew I wanted to be financially free. I knew I wanted to be able to spend more time with my family. I knew I wanted to just do something big, give back to my community, stuff like that. And then when I bought that 5 acres, I was like, okay, this is the career path that's going to help me to get there. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but this is what I'm going to do. I want to do development. Okay.
So what did that first deal look like? Can you give us the numbers?
Yeah, 100%.
Like what flipped the switch for you on that deal?
Yeah, so we bought the 5 acres. We bought it for about $65,000. We did it no money down, which, you still put money into it, but no money out of your pocket. So we had a line of credit. We put down $20,000, and then we owner financed the rest with the seller. All right. So, and the terms For the seller, it's pretty sweet. And I'll tell y'all this, you can always negotiate stuff with the seller when you're doing owner finance. And the best way to do it, in my opinion, is try to stretch out your payments, but have a shorter repayment period. So like for mine, for instance, we said, okay, look, you got $45,000 that we're gonna pay you. Our payments are gonna be based off of it's like 15-year amortization. So my payments, instead of it being like $2,000 a month, it was like $400 a month, nothing, right? But I'm gonna pay you off within a year. You know what I mean? So long amortization, short repayment period. So that puts the pressure on me to get it refinanced. You know what I mean? I got a sweet deal. I got in. I got to get it refinanced now. You know, so we paid on it for about a year. Then we actually got it refinanced. It appraised for $120,000. We bought it for $65,000.
Yeah.
So we did a cash out refi for $88,000, and then we held it for another year. So we held it for 2 years. We spent about $5,000 to replat it, and then we sold it to a couple of buyers, like somebody wanted to build a trailer home, somebody wanted to build a house, and all that. But there's a lot of learning curves to that because we found out it was 4 feet below. We needed to bring 4 feet of dirt on 5 acres because it was in a flood zone. They had some wetlands on the property. They didn't have water and sewer on the property. So like, to give you context, the land is here. 2 streets over was where the next water and sewer was. So we had to drag the lines almost 200 feet, or at least run an easement through the property to get water and sewer. And that would have cost us an extra like $20,000, $30,000, right? But I didn't know that. So for me, I was like, just get rid of the property. Now you know what to do. Let's go on to the next one, you know? So,
That's why you
but
resold it.
So you,
yeah, because originally I wanted to build it. I was actually trying to buy the 20 acres next to it so I can do 25 acres and just, you know, run a community. But that one had a lot of wetlands in it too, you know? But yeah, I just wanted to fire sell it, get rid of it. But luckily, I was transitioning to working at Lennar at the time. So I was like, okay, now I can learn how to actually do it. And I'll tell y'all this too. I always tell people this, if you want to really elevate your career, whether you want to be a salesperson, a builder, a developer, if you have your license and you're an agent, go drop your license and go work for a builder full-time for a year or 2. Go work for the top 5. Only work for the top 5. Because for me, for instance, I spent 11 months working at Lennar. I seen, from the day I got there, I saw deals left and right, at least 3 to 4 deals a week. And I'm talking 100 acre, 500 acre, 100 lot deal, 500 lot deal every single week. And from that short time span, I learned so much. And now it's like, okay, I feel confident buying stuff in like this subdivision. I can read through a contract. I can read through all the legal stuff, do all the checklists. I can go buy 100 acres because I went through that process. You know what I mean?
interesting.
So, yes, sir.
What are some of the my name is Andre.
Yeah.
But what are some of the challenges you face as you begin to scale?
So the
Well,
biggest,
hold on. Before we
Yeah.
get it, yeah, great question,
That's a good
Andre.
question.
So,
Yeah, all right, so-
but I just want to catch, and hopefully you guys heard that. So I think it's interesting. So one, you talk about getting into the right rooms, being with the right people, surrounding yourself, but also you chose to make an investment of your time to go work for one of the big builders.
Yes.
And so what was clicking for me is that, you know, real estate, there's no formal education like for anybody, especially on the investment side. It's all self-led education for the most part, unless you invest into getting a license to become an agent. You've got to go through that process. But to get into land development, you know, there's not like a college program that you go to, right? So I think if you hear what Greg's saying, what I hear you, like you decided to commit a year of your time, you know, kind of suspend everything that you're doing to essentially kind of go get your MBA in land development, working with, so you almost got paid to go get your education in the land development, right?
Yep, exactly. And I think Saad did that too. One of our co-founders, he did the same thing. He worked in sales, then warranty, and then he worked under Luke, and Luke trained him as a builder.
Construction as well.
Yep. So, but yeah, that's a cheat code. It's like either you can find the right people and network and get into those rooms. You can go pay for an MBA or some kind of college course, or you can go work for them and get paid to learn. But don't be afraid to do that though. Like, I know some people, they take pay cuts just to learn the process. So don't be afraid to do that because it really will accelerate your career pretty fast. But make sure you do it with somebody they have proven. This is the thing, when you work for a bigger builder or somebody, like you think about Walmart, you think about Target, they have proven systems and process to the point where you can go and buy interest in their company by buying stocks. That's how good that they've refined the systems and processes. So it's like, why recreate it? Why try to figure it out on your own? Go work with somebody that already has those processes. That way you can learn it and you can scale it to the next level. And if, to Andre's question, so one of the biggest is setting up your own systems and processes and making sure you have manuals in place. That way you can scale and everything is under control. So that, like, systems and processes is probably one of the biggest challenges, like, as a startup. I mean, you know, so like you probably know like how to invest, buy wholesale property or buy some investment properties like left and right. But it's like, can you train other people to do it? You know, other people to do it with the pamphlet or handbook, and can they train somebody else to do it? You know, so that's probably the biggest challenge to growing. You know, once you start off your company. So.
Yeah. So systems and processes, getting that infrastructure, kind of building that foundation, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But I think the thing for me too, what was it that allowed you to go from that 5 lot to be like, hey, I'm ready, or 5 acres to go, hey, I'm ready to go to 20, 100 acre, like to make that big jump? Because I think a lot of people will kind of hit that analysis or that fear that'll come through and they'll be like, wait, do I really want it? But it sounds like you were ready to make that jump. So what was it that, you know, helped you break through to go from, you know, that one smaller deal to the bigger scale? Like, what was it?
Yeah, believe it or not, even buying the 5 acres was tough. I was like, man, I was talking to my brother. It was like a couple days before Christmas. I was like, man, no, a couple days before Thanksgiving. I was like, man, you sure you want to do this? You sure, bro? Like, it's 5 acres, bro. Like, I never did it before. Like, what? How we gonna do this? How we gonna figure it out? What we gonna do to make the payments and stuff? But I think you just have to do it sometimes. And I mean, that's one big fix and flipper, real estate investor. He went from jail to doing multi-million-dollar houses, and now he's a multi-millionaire, like literally within the span of 2 years. And one of the things that he said was, he said, sometimes you just got to think, what else do I have to lose? You know, like, what do I have to lose and what do I have to gain? And you have to like kind of see. Obviously, you got to run your numbers. That's number one. Run your numbers. If the deal makes sense, it's kind of like, you know, you want to be elevated or you just want to stay where you're at. You know? So for me, it was just like, you got to believe. You just got to believe it's going to happen and don't believe the worst case. I think naturally as humans, we tend to lean on our fears more than we believe in our, you know, capabilities and our possibilities. And it's just a natural thing. That's why you have to get in the gym sometimes. You got to face your fears sometimes. Because even with this, like, you know, there's a lot of fears that we had, you know, like a lot of stuff. But when you put yourself in where I want to be instead of what's the current and what's holding me back, then you can really elevate yourself.
That's good.
So it's just, you got to believe and just go for it. You know, if you lose a little money, it is what it is. Go get your next deal.
Yeah.
You know what not to do. You learn through it. Yeah. Or get you a mentor. Or go learn from somebody else, and that's gonna help you, and that'll really help you have confidence. That's what gave me confidence, working with somebody else and learning and mentoring stuff too.
Cool. And that was partly through, you know, going to work for Lennar, seeing the bigger picture.
Yeah.
You know, other mentors. Do you want to talk about any mentors that you have, or any that have been super impactful, or people that you worked or collaborated with?
Yeah. So when I was in commercial banking, I worked with another lender, and he was like one of the top lenders at the bank, at Veritex Bank. And he took me under his wing, taught me everything he needed to know. That's partially why I network now.
And that's when we met. When you were at Veritex.
About 3 years ago, yeah. So he literally told me the blueprint of networking. Like, if you go, y'all write this down. If you go to an event and you sitting at a table, introduce yourself to everybody at the table. I don't care how awkward it is. Tap them on the shoulder, they eating, whatever. Like, tell them, wipe your face, whatever. and shake your hand, make sure they know who you are. Even if you don't talk to them that long, go shake everybody, you know, hand at the table. And then just work the room, you know, go to the event early, stay late, and just chop it up with people. you know, but he taught me a lot about that and also just relationship building.
Yeah.
Like, I'll never forget, so we were on a golf course one day and just hanging out. And all of a sudden, we was on the ninth hole. He got a phone call. It's, oh yeah, you know, Chopper, what's up, Jerry? How you doing? He's like, hey, I got a $21 million loan for you, which I was gonna pay him about $100,000 in bonuses. But he just on the golf course. He not cold calling. He not doing none of that stuff. Just the phone just ring. And what he told me was, he's like, when you put people before the business and you get invested in them and you have a genuine relationship with people, people naturally want to do business with you. And that was my biggest takeaway from him is like, you not only do you have to get in the rooms, but you need to form relationships with those people, and not just on a business standpoint. Always like, hey man, what's the stocks? You know, like what's your business doing? This like, hey, how your kids doing? Oh, your kid graduated, man. I'm gonna send them something, right? Like let me come to your wedding. You know what I mean? Like that shows people that you genuinely care about them, and then they naturally want to do business with you. You know, but you don't want to be facetious about it, but you know, have a genuine interest in people. And I feel like when you do that, businesses naturally come.
Yeah.
You know, so.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and two, I'm huge. I mean, that's how we connected. And I think with the theme that you're hearing with Greg, it's relationships are everything, like foundationally or everything. Does everybody else believe that relationships are important to you and your business? Do you guys know how much work it takes to build a meaningful relationship?
That's a lot.
So and I share this with, some of the speeches that I do, but there's an evolutionary psychologist, and he wanted to identify what it takes to build a meaningful relationship. And a meaningful relationship is, hey, I'm in the Hong Kong airport at 2 a.m, and I see somebody sitting at the bar. I can walk up to them, get in step of their life where they're at. Well, hey, how you doing? What you up to? How's your family? What are you doing here? It's not like just a work thing. You've got a meaningful relationship with that person. Does that make sense? So how many of those relationships do you think you and I can maintain at any one given point in time? Like right now, how many meaningful relationships can you maintain?
Probably 10.
20?
Not that many.
Well, there's levels, so there's circles to it. But how many people typically show up at a wedding?
Oh, a lot.
100 or 200. So what this psychologist found, 150 meaningful relationships is what you and I can maintain on a day-to-day basis. 150. So what you've got to think about, like when Greg and I are going out, and whenever you go to these networking events, you've got to understand that we all have 150 people that are already in all of those seats. Like there's already somebody in the seat that says real estate or finance or my family, people I go to church with, friends, neighbors, guys I grew up with, right? So a lot of those seats are taken. So there's not like you go to an event and you just meet Andre once and you're like, hey, we're boys. We can, I call Andre up and say, it takes a lot of work to go into that. So there's a book by a great guy, Daniel Priestley. It's a book called Oversubscribed. And he quantified how much work it takes to build that meaningful relationship. And there's three parts of it. I'm trying to remember off the top.
What's the last name?
Daniel Priestley. So it's called Oversubscribed. And the first part is a time investment. So you have to be able to invest 7 hours of time into that relationship. So collectively, you all are here. I'm essentially earning, 30, 45 minutes, an hour of your time that we're building a relationship, right? When we leave here, if I want to build a bigger relationship with you, a meaningful relationship, I'm going to have to find a way to work that other 6 hours of time to figure out how I can earn that with you, whether it's through another event, whether it's through emails, social media, text, phone calls, all of that. So some people will say 7 hours. Well, that's not a lot. But in the reality of life day to day, like for me to invest 7 hours in time, to Greg, we met 3 years ago. We've gone to numerous, toolbox lunches. We've, caught up on social media. There's that time investment has been aggregated. So does that make sense? So 7 hours. The next thing is 11 times. So the frequency, the number of times you've got to engage with someone. has to be at least 11 times. And realistically, if you figure out the marketing side of things, it's more 14, 16, 18, just with how much advertising and marketing. But you have to have 11 engagements with that person. So I've got to engage with Greg over the last, through those events, through the text messages, through social media, 11 times. He's getting my weekly email, whatever that is, where he's engaging with me. And then the last part is you've got to do it in 4 different modes. So it's got to be in person. It's going to be in text. It's going to be at an event. It's going to be in social media. It's going to be in all these areas. So when you hit that, 7, 11, 4, that's the foundation to building the relationship. Because a lot of people will go to these events. They'll show up at Andre's event. Man, I see Andre all over the place on social media. I see Greg all over. Just because you see us on social media, or you see Greg or Andre or whoever, like that's not that you're capturing their time, but you're not engaging with them. So it's that outward investment, that's what Greg's saying. It's like you've got to proactively go out and invest the time into those relationships, because it takes work. Like meaningful relationships take work. Yeah. Like I can meet you and say hello and, we can be friendly, but if it turns into that relationship, that is going to go somewhere into the future, like that's the amount of work that has to go into it. And not everybody has an unlimited capacity of relationships. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So hopefully that's helpful.
Piggyback off of that too. The real estate industry, especially the residential side, is a very tight knit, especially in the home builder space. So if y'all start going to those ULI events, GHBA, you start seeing the same people. So just like with us, it's like we start popping up at the same events. Sometimes you can invite people, to those events, and that's an easy way to have, a connection with that person too. It doesn't have to be like, let's sit down for 2-3 hours. Yeah. Let's just go to this event, chop it up for 15 minutes. I'll see you at the next one. If you keep going to the same events, you keep showing up, they'll see you. They'll eventually get to know you. And then over time, you at the table. And I'll tell y'all this too. This community, we kind of got in because of that. But there's another community we get into next year, and it's about 80 lots. It's with Lennar and Dior Horton. Incredible. It's a God thing too. But it's cool. Luke was there with me. We went to an Astros game, and I didn't want to go. It was raining. I think they had a tornado or something hit downtown. Like, it was crazy. Yeah, it was crazy. But because we...
Stadium was leaking?
Yeah, it was crazy. But because we showed up, somebody just walked up and was like, hey, you want 80 lots with Lennar and Dior Horton? I'm like, absolutely. Absolutely. You want to be with the big dogs? Yeah. But again, it's showing up. Yeah. And I had a relationship with him too because, every once in a while, let's go fishing, let's go to the gym, let's go. And it's another thing too, you don't have to do just conventional ways of hanging out with people or not networking, getting to know people. Like, you don't have to just go meet them at lunch. You don't have to just meet them at coffee or at their office. Go play golf with them. Go hit them up and go to the gym. Again, it's about the personal stuff. I know some builders that I get with and I go run with them, because I like running. I like working out. Yeah. Meet them where their interests are. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
and that's one of the big hacks that I share too on the networking side. Like really, Greg is busy. Like a lot of people are busy. So to ask for their time out of their day to go to coffee or lunch, that's like you're asking for a specific time. It's much easier to go with people where they're going. So if they're going to workout, if they're going to an event, if you invite people to an event where there's going to be a mutual interest, if they've got a project, come meet them at their project. Mm-hmm. Have them talk to you about their project. We're going to get to spend time about their project, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the opportunity. Don't try to subtract time from their day. Go with them, meet them in their day so you can go with them. Because when you're together on the site with them, it's why we're here, right? There's value that you will get in a much different context and framework instead of, let's go sit at a Starbucks. Don't do that. Yeah. All right, so what we're going to do real quick, we're going to take a break. I want to have the Loan Depot crew and the Millennial Title crew, if you guys want to share just a little bit about what you do. And then we're going to take a break. I want you guys there are restrooms inside. If you guys want to walk around the property, this model home, for 5-10 minutes, we want you guys to see the product that they're building. And then we'll go into the second part, which is more going to be talking about the project, what this deal looks like, how it all came together, and all that stuff. So does that sound good? Yeah. All right, so can we have you guys come up? All right, yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Joanne Lopez. I'm with Loan Depot. I've got my partner over here. We're at the spring office off of the 99, and we are partnered up with Hart Homes, and we offer financing for any home buyer, refinancing, cash outs. You know, I've been in the industry for about 25 years now, so been through the ringer and in and out. So let me know if I can help you guys. You know, we have a lot of programs that we offer, bank statement. You know, we even have an I-10 product. We have down payment assistance products, many options for the buyers. We do a lot of hand holding with the buyers. You know, a lot of our first time buyers need that extra hand holding. So we help them from beginning to the end. I have a whole team at my office that can help. We're all bilingual, and we're here to help you guys in anything that we can do. So I appreciate y'all being out here, and thank you so much for coming out.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you. Then we'll have the Millennial Title crew. I think you can hold that. That's the microphone, I just realized.
Hi everyone, we're super excited to be here and to partner with Hart Homes. We are Millennial Title. My name is Ashley Young. I am the Vice President of Business Development, and we also have our Millennial Title Crosby crew here as well, if you want to introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name is Carolina, and we just opened a branch here in Crosby, and we're so excited to be here with you guys. And
Hi, I'm Haiti. I am the office manager for our Crosby location. So essentially, we are here to help you guys with your acquisition, taking care of title, making sure everything is clear and set for y'all to move forward with your projects. So we're very excited to be here, and yeah, Ashley can take it over.
So as you guys can see, we do have multiple offices. So we have an office in the Galleria area. We have our Crosby office, as you can tell. And we also now have our office in Sugar Land. So we don't only just work with residential deals, we also do commercial. We do land acquisition, multifamilies, and other developments. Refis, we do it all. So again, we're super excited to work with Hart Homes on this project. And thank you guys for being here.
All right, so yeah, if you guys want, grab some water, kolaches, take a look at the property. We'll be back in like 5 minutes, all right? All right, so this is going to be the second part. Again, I want to, respect everybody's time just so we can wrap right at noon.
Yeah, they got one.
So what we're going to do,
to
we're
get
actually
there,
going to
now
go
you
for a
gotta go
walk.
this way.
So we're going
They
to
got a
walk
lake
and talk.
over here.
We're going to, Greg's going to talk about the development. So everybody feel they got a good, good insight into Greg's heart, his background, his journey, real estate, some of the gems, networking, relationships, right? So now what we're going to do, we're actually going to head a couple blocks down to where their project is in development. So we're all going to kind of walk and talk. We're gonna learn how good Greg can talk walking backwards. So that'll be fun. Yeah, we're gonna walk through. He'll share a little bit about the project, and then we're just gonna head over to some of their new builds that they've got going right now. So,
Yeah.
sound good?
This is one of yours?
Yeah, so this whole block, so like if you look over here,
This entire island.
this
right
entire
here in the middle
yeah,
is us.
this all us, all these houses. So we got right now Luke or Sard, how many houses we got going up right now? 27?
37.
37? 36?
36 plus the model.
Yeah. So all of these around this block, and then if you see that white 2-story, all those houses to the left, that's all of us. And the cool thing about it is y'all see it is right across from the amenities, which is the playground, tetherball. They got a basketball court. So that's an excellent selling point for us.
So there's a small dog park, a large dog park, a playground, a basketball court, a volleyball court, a pickleball court, horseshoes, and some sitting areas for the parents. So,
Yep.
and there's a walking trail kind of around the retention pond. The retention pond does hold fish. It's catch and release only.
So the rest of
Walking
these
trails
homes
throughout.
belong
And you
to
can see
another
kind of when
builder?
you drove
Yeah,
in, there was
yeah.
walking
It's
trails, little places to sit. That's
different-
going to go.
three
That's
different
going to be
buildings.
the theme throughout the community.
All right, come on, y'all. Let's
Did y'all buy
Let's
it
check.
all together, or did you separate it?
yeah. So
And
all
you,
right.
You got your spot.
Yeah, so this right here, this whole section is Century Communities, another builder. Well, I guess let me give you some context on the community, okay? This is a 500 home community. Well, that's 500 lots. The developers started back in 2021, I believe, and it's 3 builders. Century Communities. Can y'all hear me in the back? All right. Century Communities, they're a publicly traded builder. First American Homes and Davidson Homes, big regional builder out of, I think it's Alabama or somewhere like that. But typically in a big community like this, most developers, they sell lots to multiple builders so that they can accelerate what they call their takedowns. And what that means is just like selling the lots. Because as a developer, like you might take 2 years to go through the replatting process, to go through all the preliminary stuff before you even start breaking ground on the development. All right. Yeah, so it's 2 years in it before you start selling lots. And then once you start selling lots, it's just like, okay, like a builder's not gonna buy all of this at once, right? They might buy, each builder might have 300 lots or 250 lots, and they might buy, call it 100 a year, because that's how many houses they can sell, right? Because me as a builder, I don't wanna buy 100 lots and I'm just sitting on it and it's just eating interest, right? So we structure it and it's called a takedown. So it's like, this one we did, so we got 37, but we bought 10, 10, and 10. And so it worked perfect because when we had our grand opening, we pre-sold about 10 houses in the first month, all right? And so now we're doing about 5 or 6 a month. And so now it's like, okay, now we kind of keeping pace. And that's kind of the difference. And again, this is our entire section right here. I want to tell y'all this because we're also open to working with capital investors too. One of the biggest hurdles as a smaller builder when you're competing with the Centuries, the publicly traded guys, the reason I say publicly traded and regional is because it's really tough for a small builder, unless you have good capital behind you, to scale with these big guys. Now, the good thing with us is because of Luke and Jorge, we can build the houses pretty quick and we're in line with all these publicly traded builders and our build cost is in line with them too. So do you want to kind of walk us through like our build times and also like kind of our costs too, and how it compares to like the publicly traded guys and, you know, how we compete?
How does this work? Just hold on to it. All right, fantastic. So, yeah, so like just specifically in this community, like we're in competition with Century Communities, First America, and Davidson Homes. Now, it's hard to tell right now because you guys aren't here every day, but what we do is we build the houses in about half the time that Century does. Century's like top 10 builder in the nation right now, and we're building our houses in half the time that they are. Okay?
So what is that time?
So our build schedule here is on a 45-day build schedule. Sometimes it goes a couple of days over depending on gas, electric, and water services. That's the only reason we go over our build schedule, but if everything goes proper, it's a 45-day build schedule. Time is money, guys, so we get the houses done immediately. What we did was we selected all the best trades throughout the city of Houston that are already used to building houses really fast with your other production builders. We use a builder CRM software that notifies everybody, every trade, when they're going to be here, what day they're going to be here, and what they're going to bring. Everything's turnkey service. Not a single one of my construction managers walks into a Home Depot to buy any parts. Every trade brings everything they need. That makes everything go really fast, and everybody knows 14 days in advance, up to 60 days in advance, what day they're going to be here. So that makes everything go really fast. There's no excuses as to why people can't make it on our scheduled day because they know 30 days in advance. So that's how we get to our 45-day build schedule. So that's how we compete with Century Communities. Even some of the construction managers have came up and they're even in awe about how do y'all do it so fast, or why do y'all do it so fast? Well, we do it really fast because this guy's a great salesman and he's asking me for more delivered houses all the time. Yeah, he wants to make money. We want to make the wheels turn. And obviously we'd like to purchase more lots and repeat the process. Yeah. Did you have another question?
Do y'all buy or sell these the lots before you build? Or
No.
you're just building to sell.
Build to sell. So like,
there's go ahead.
so these communities, these are all public, like, these are all builder lots. So we buy them, we build them, we sell them. So these are like this is a little bit more unique versus like your communities where you might see like they own a finance or they sell it to the public. These are restricted straight up to builders. Again, because they can sell in volume. Like 6 months ago, all of this was cleared out. And we just had our section right here. I mean, they had the houses in the front, but these guys, Century, from that White House right there, all the way down, they built all of those houses in 6 months. And that's how, like that, and just to show y'all, that is how production building works. These guys, they might do 20 houses at a time. Like Jorge, we do our first 10 houses, they were sold. And he's like, I need more houses. You know, that's just the difference between building a scattered versus doing production. It's just a little bit more repeatable process, a little bit more predictable, and you have a little bit more controls over it. And that's kind of also why we were able to get our, like when we were on scattered lots, we were building, we call it like $100 a foot, right? But because you got so many variables, you got to bring in some fill, you got to clear some trees, all kind of things, right? But with this, we bought lots. We can build this today, and now we can shave our costs down by $20 a square foot just from building in a community like this. So yes, they already got water and sewer taps right there in the front. They got electric, they got all the utilities and stuff in the back. So
yeah, there's no surprises when we're a community. Everything is very predictable. And what we can do as well is, because we're building straight down the street, we can build in sets. So we can build in sets of 3 to 4 to 5 houses at a time. So like on a Monday, we'll start 5 houses. So when our trades come out, we get that volume pricing off the bat because they're gonna come out and do 5 houses in one day. And every trade only does one line, like one item. So like the framer only does framing. No trade does multiple things. So these guys are professionals. They're very fast at what they do. They come in, they get it done. The next day, a different team comes and puts something else on the house. So that keeps it going really fast, and that gets our pricing low when we start 3 to 5 houses at one time.
How many blueprints y'all have?
In this community, we have six different floor plans, and each floor plan has 2 elevations. So it looks like 12 different houses.
Yeah. Well, we can keep going too. So also, if there's any investors that say, hey, I want to build a house in a community like this. So these right here, we're actually about to go into contract on these next 12 lots. And as you can see, it backs to the detention pond. So these will be a little bit more of a premium. Right now, the going for that is about $600,000. And for the, ideally, what we would like to do is, if you wanted to invest in something like that, we have control. We already in this community. We know how many homes are selling. Y'all can kind of walk some of our products. But if you wanted to get in, I could send y'all a package on these 12 lots, all right? And that'll help us to keep going in this community. And then
You're just looking for funds to help.
yeah, just to buy the land and just to keep going. Now, on the other side of it, there's 22 lots. These right here, we've been talking to the developer about purchasing these too. So ideally, it'll be phase 1 over here. Once we sell out this side, phase 1 with these 12 lots, then we move on to buy these 2. And these are also back to the lake. So these are premium lots. No other builder has lots along the lake. And the developer, he's been gracious enough to want to help a startup, and he's held the lots for us so we can continue building. So
Are you gonna do like a little sprinkler thing? And, make it pretty?
well,
Yeah, like a fountain.
no. So we'll just have the houses, and we'll probably do like a iron rod fence in the back, so people can, you walk out, you see the lake, you don't have no fence, So we'll do something like that.
Quick question.
Yes.
What's the difference between a developer and a builder?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that. All right, so y'all see all this look at all this right here. You see all this infrastructure? This is a developer. Everything that you see on the streets and under the streets.
Actually, let's pause real quick. That's a good question. Hey.
Okay.
So real quick, just the question that Andre asked, what's the difference between a developer and a builder?
Yes.
Okay. Because there's some clarity. Yeah. Because we want to get some clarity in terms of like what those 2 distinctions are. And what is the difference between the two?
Yes. So perfect example. Okay. All right.
And what role are you playing?
So we're just the builder in this community, but eventually we're gonna do our own subdivisions like this. All right. So a developer, they take land like this and then they turn it into this. Just the streets, the underground, everything. You don't see all the stuff that's going on under here, but there's a big 12-inch water pipe, a big sewer pipe, probably buried 15 to 10 feet underground. The developer does all of this. They do the detention pond, they install the amenities, they do all the upfront work so that we can just build the houses. Okay. So really important terms to know. Horizontal, that's everything below the earth. That's what a developer does. All the infrastructure, all that kind of stuff, that's developer. The vertical, that's a builder.
Above the ground.
Yeah, that's it. So that's the biggest difference.
How long it takes to do the development part?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the typical process is about 18 to 24 months before you have finished lots. So if I find a piece of land today, it might take me almost a year to get it entitled, which basically means get it approved with the city, get engineering plans, get construction plans so I can start developing. Okay, that's a year. Then it might take almost 9 to 12 months to do all the horizontal work. And then I can sell my lots to a builder. So typically like 18 to 24 months from once you get under contract with it.
How much percentage of that you put it into the finished house? Like 15% of the price that you're gonna sell the house, the ARV, or 20% of how much of that goes to the house?
So how much of the land costs? Is that what you're asking?
Oh, is it the land cost?
Land cost?
Part goes to each property. Like
Okay.
how much you can estimate that you're gonna spend on the development?
Well, that's kind of the, let me see, how do I explain it? So if we're just solely the developer, we typically will look at like what's selling in the neighborhood. Like if I'm a developer and I'm just buying this land and I want to develop this subdivision, I'm gonna look at how much of those houses are selling for. Are they selling for 300? They selling for 400? Okay, cool. I need to make sure my land costs is good enough to meet that price. And what I usually tell people is like, okay, if a house is selling for 300,000, 20% of that, your land shouldn't cost no more than 20% of that. And that's just a general rule of thumb. Now there's more formulas involved with it, but that's just a quick back of the napkin. You know what I mean? Like if houses selling for 300, I'm not buying the land for 100. Because the houses probably need to sell for 400, 450. You know, so as a developer, I'm looking at the comps. I'm looking at all of that to see if I can produce a good enough lot to sell it to builders. You know, so but yeah, and typically your development costs are around like $30,000 a lot. So that's usually what I tell people is like, now if you're doing amenities and all kind of extra stuff, it might be a little bit more, but then you can get reimbursements and all. It's a whole different
So there is
ball
a
game
cost
with
to
this.
it. There is a portion that you pay to the sale of the property to the developer, even though you've already paid for the land.
No.
No.
So the whole building, when you sell it, is your profit.
Yes. Yeah. When we buying lots.
So like this one, for example, how much of this land do you own? Like, did you buy from the developer?
So those 8 lots over there, and then that whole block, that's all ours.
37
37
lots.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right now.
So you guys are in control of that.
Yes.
So, but when you talk about, this section here, do you guys have that under contract? Do you own it? Yeah, or
I sent
you
it out
kind of-
yesterday.
Huh?
I sent out the contract yesterday to sign. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
you're actively buying
Technically,
from the developer.
yes.
Still.
And that's another. I'm glad you asked that because that's another difference between like being in the scattered lot type deal. Because with scatters, you like, oh, I gotta go find my next one. Just like wholesaling, like I gotta go find my next deal. When you're in a community like this, a developer, they typically putting lots on the ground every quarter, right? So with this one, for instance, we finish out this section, the developer is like, hey, I got 50 more lots in this community, or I got 50 more lots in another community coming next year. Do you want to get in? And it's just kind of like a continual, like annuity kind of stream of lot supply. Once you're in, it's just you keep getting lot opportunities. So yeah, it's a little different. So,
And as a builder,
yes.
what kind of due diligence, if any, do you do with developers with land that people have developed on to make sure that the horizontal work is done well?
Oh, a lot. A lot. Yeah. That you do a lot. Like number one thing that I look at is developer history. Like we actually had a developer that he had 150 lots in Crosby that we almost did. The price was amazing in a great growing area, but we found out he was going through bankruptcy. You know what I mean? And it's like he's in bankruptcy for 7 other communities with publicly traded builders. That's a big red flag. If I'm gonna drop, I don't remember how much it was, $300 to $500,000 for a year with this guy that can go potentially bankrupt. You know what I mean? So you want to look at their history. You want to look at what projects they've done, acts around the industry. There's a checklist that I can send y'all to, but typically it's like you're looking at the HOA documents. Like, like this one's, for instance, you can only do 50. You have to do 50% brick on the front of the front facade of the house. Some communities you have to do 100% brick, or you might have to do just the first floors is brick, and it's different restrictions like that. Now, also Luke had pointed out we have 6 different elevations. Normally, like in City of Houston, you might see one elevation and they just change it, but they have something called a repeat rule, where it's like you can't repeat the same plan across the street, or you can't repeat it. You have to skip 3 houses before you do that same elevation. So that's why you'll see that house, you might see that house here, but then you'll see it back over there or something like that. Or just like those are 3 different plans, but you'll see it again over here, right? And that's to kind of keep the aesthetics of the neighborhood, but it also allows multiple builders to be in it, and you wouldn't know which one is the builder, right? So that's kind of, so, yep.
To piggyback on what she said, could you also
Do we have the keys to
find out
Okay, cool.
If the builders that were previously here, I mean, is that a good indication that, you know, that the development is good, depending upon the builders that are already in the area?
Yes, 100%. And it's different tiers of builders too. So Century, Davidson, they're first time home builders. Car coming?
Yeah.
And I guess we can keep walking there just so we can get everybody out the heat. So you got your first time home buyers,
what's up, man?
First time home builders, and then you have your more like move up builders. So for me, for instance, I probably couldn't compete with a Lennar in the same community. But if it's like a builder that's doing like semi-custom and they do upgrades and all that kind of stuff, I need to know that as a builder, because it's like, okay, if they doing upgrades and I'm just building houses, no upgrades, then I know I can compete. You know, so you definitely need to know like what other builders are doing, how they're selling too, before you buy lots in the community. So, yeah. Honestly, we have a really good architect. Our architect, he spent about 15 years at Lennar, and so he designed all of their plans. We just told him, hey man, I need a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Just do your thing, man. You know, make it functional. Just do your thing.
So he's got to make sure that he has a lot of experience working in production.
Yeah, but and that's the thing, like too, because we talked about our construction costs. Yeah. Luke he's gonna talk a little bit more about that too, or you can ask him later. But when you pick an architect, you have to make sure you pick the right one. Like if you build in a custom house, you get a custom architect. If you build in production, I need a production architect like my guy, because sometimes they might over-engineer it. Yeah. They add extra beams, add all these little extra stuff. But my guys, they do it to code, do it safely, and cheaper.
Cheap to build.
And that's why the big builders, they can do so much volume and they can keep it, you know, keep the prices down. Okay. So architects are really, really important. Architects and engineers. Just like saw it. Yeah, work. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So Luke spent a lot of time at LGI, Lennar, D.R. Horton, so naturally he knows all the trades. Sod, he was on the sales side, and he also was on the warranty side and all that. So he's more operations, so he knows architect. You know, me, I know the developers. So it's kind of like, it's a perfect union for a production home building company. You know.
Did you get to at least give some feedback to the architect? Like, hey, I just saw these other
Oh,
community
yeah.
with this design, and I think it's going to sell better than whatever we have from that.
Yeah. No, we do. We give a little feedback. So like, if I'm looking at this over here, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I don't like that. That's ugly. I want to like make it farmhouse style. You know,
yeah.
make it. So I
Because you have
drive.
some input.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I as a land guy, I'm the forefront of it. So I have to drive communities. I have to see what's selling, all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, I see
naturally,
content all the time. You're just driving around in Austin.
dude, man, I put probably 90,000 miles on my car in the past like 2 years. Just because, like, when you work for Lennar, a big builder, you got to know all of Houston, not inside the loop. You got to know Fulshire, you got to know Dayton, you got to know, everywhere.
Coming up,
Yeah, so you got to know it because, you got to see what the style of the community is. You got to know how they selling, and you got to know if you want to be in that area or not. Because it's
Greg,
plenty of land out there.
On the investment side, right? So
Uh-huh.
when you go to investors for capital, I guess a couple questions there, right?
Yeah.
How heavily do they lean into looking at your track record, and then typically, if you agree to take their money, right, to put it to work, what are you looking for there as far as terms?
Yeah. So we do a lot of heavy lifting up front. That's really on me. To do all the underwriting, the analysis, to see what kind of returns they can get and all that. They lean heavily on our experience, and because we worked at a production builder, we did all these houses. We can compete with the big guys. It helps us a lot when it comes to investors, right? And then whenever we are working with investors, the typical is about 18 to 20% return on their money. So like something like
That's annual,
this.
right?
Yeah.
On a year.
Yeah. On this one, we actually did it to where it was like they bought the land and we did a JV entity and we split the proceeds 50-50. But of course, naturally, we do all the work. We don't make much money off of it. So we're transitioning to setting up funds. Like our next project, we're gonna set up a fund, and then it'll be, I think, 18 to 24 months. You park your money in there, minimum $100,000 investment, and you get a 20% return.
So is that like a land banking structure? Like they essentially give you the gap funding until you actually build,
Yeah.
and then sell it,
Mhm.
and then you pay back.
Right. Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. So like yeah.
We got like 15 minutes.
Oh, okay. Come on. Let's go. All right. We need to talk about that. We'll keep talking about that.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Okay. All right. So, like I said, it's 11:45, so I want to make sure everybody can bounce if they need to. Obviously, we wanted to give you guys a full experience of Greg's project. So, and I know we're gonna run a little short on time. You guys are welcome to stay and hang around, but if you do need to get rolling, please do that. But do you want to share with us kind of what you have going on here? And
Yeah. Absolutely.
everything looks.
So okay, I didn't tell y'all this, but those are our 35-foot wide lots, and so in those, hey Jorge, what products do we have over there and sales price and all that? So on our 35-foot lots.
There you go.
Hey, how you guys doing? I'm Jorge. I'm the sales director here at Hart Homes. So I have a little bit more knowledge of, being the boots on the ground here. So over there on our 35-foot lots, our product is three homes. We have 2 1-stories, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and a 2-story, 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath. All 2-car garage. That's one of the key differences here. And then you guys saw the fixings are not like entry level. You don't have vinyl. You don't have Formica. You actually have granite, LVP throughout the house, high ceilings. So it's typically a better product than you would see at this price point, which allows us to kill the competition. Greg left out that we picked up these lots because one of the builders left. We kicked their butts. But over there, we start at $199, and we go up to right now $230, believe it or not.
Yep.
So we've killed it out there. We're about to close out the entire first street, and the only issue is as soon as the paint dries, someone moves in. So then I don't have standing inventory to be able to show to clients. So I preface every tour with, excuse the mess. This happens to be the only home that's close to being done. You'll be able to go into the home. There's no power currently, but you can see pretty much the finished product. And this is the finish, whether it's the entry level or a little bit nicer. Over here, we start at 225 and go up to about 260. We're still more competitive price per square foot than the competition. So we're still killing them here as well.
So what's the difference between your guys' price versus the competition?
That's a secret.
Oh.
No, it's I believe they're about $20-$30 more per square foot.
Wow.
This is the last time I did a CMA. So, and that's the other key, is sitting down with these guys and figuring out what should our entry price level be and slowly increasing it. We've increased, we started our 2-story over there, was our best selling product over there, started at $219 day one. Right now it's at $230. So we've slowly increased it, made sure that we can control the story when it comes to appraisals. In fact, we were so dialed in on pricing. I'll tell you a little snippet. That White House that you see over there, we had to fight the VA because we knew the appraisal was bad, and we won. So we knew that we were priced to compete, and compete we have. We actually don't compete, we dominate.
Yeah. Is Luke? I think that one was around $80 a foot. So it's 12, the 2-story, $1,250. So that's like 90,000.
Which one are you talking about?
The 2-story. Yeah, so I think it's so all in 90 plus the lot was 38.5. We pay impact fees of 12. So we all in about 130, 140. So and then we sell it for 220, 230. So I mean,
227 was the last one.
227, yeah. There you go. And that's below appraisal, right? Or pretty close to it.
I increased it just above.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So they moving, so that's our 35-foot section. And then the rest of it is all 50-foot wide lots. So that's more of your move up kind of buyer. And so that's why you see the difference between, the width of it. And so you see a little bit more space. And the price point's a little higher too.
So did you guys catch the price per square foot on the build side? So you said around $80 per square foot. And then what are you selling it at? What's the square price
About
per
150 or higher, depending on.
And they're selling it at 150 price per square foot. So that's where that gap is. And I know Luke, he can probably share the difference, because because I know we do have some new construction. I know Josh is here, Andre. I know there's some guys here that have done new build construction. Do you know what your cost? Your 103.
That's typical.
Scattered lots. Yeah,
that's pretty good.
So what was it before on the scattered? Like, what's the efficiency of getting into the production build on the cost side, like price per square foot versus the scattered lot or individual project?
Yeah, I mean, on scatters, we was at the same price, about 100, 105. But that's because you got to bring in fill. You might have to cut down some trees. You might have to increase some water lines or something. It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot more involved with it. But this one is like, we scrape lots and we go vertical.
There's also community pricing. So like when you get in a community, you get community pricing from the trades, and that basically shaves off a lot of costs. Yeah. And every lot size is the same. So that basically, when you go to scattered, there's like, every lot's probably like, an acre to down to like 50 by 120 square feet lot. So that's pretty much.
Hey, can you introduce yourself? Go ahead.
Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey guys, I'm Saud. I'm CEO of Hart Homes, and me and Luke and Greg, we all started the company.
So he's the guy with the vision to leave Lennar to start all this. So he's the main guy behind Hart.
So we did have a question in terms of you guys formalizing your partnership. How did that come about, and then how did you guys structure the company?
Yeah, so when we were at Lennar, I was in sales and I went into construction. And basically, I was with Luke in the community, and we both started talking about, do you have an LLC, etc. We were both on the same page about starting a company. And in 2022, in January, we got our first custom build. That put some money in our pockets, and we were able to quit our jobs, Greg followed along like immediately. He was on the land side in Friendswood, and we basically just started an LLC. We made an LLC, and we focused on getting our volume up. We talked to private equity companies, to like investors and everything, and then we grew from 4 to 50 to now we're hitting 100, and now we're looking at structuring. We're working on that right now, but yeah.
How
Go for it.
how important is it to make sure you have structure, especially if you speaking to investors and raising capital and all that kind of stuff? Can you kind of speak on that?
Yeah, of course. So like, so by structure, you mean on the entity side?
No,
Or
just like in general, like the organization side.
like
and-
operate all that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like
So-
basically, how do we scale so fast
Yes.
because of?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we started the company, we instead of going out and chasing more deals, we focused on the foundation of the company, which is the systems and the processes and the structure of the company, because it's basically a machine. We're buying lots, and then it's going in the pipeline, and then you're building something on it, just like a factory, and then you're selling it. So it's pretty simple. So like that machine, that factory has to be like pretty damn good, and then it's gonna work.
But you do have to have the capital to start the process.
Yeah, so we get enough capital to start the process, but you don't focus on just deals. As a home builder, we're like, okay, we get that nice margin, that nice layer where we can get enough, but we can also have time and energy and resources to focus on implementing the same systems that all these Fortune 500 builders have that we learned. So,
was
so
there
yeah.
any investors that y'all had that were saying, I see your vision, and I want to be part of that vision.
Yes.
So here's
Yeah.
100 grand.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
Exactly.
that's kind of too. And I want to point out to y'all too, like, before you scale too fast, make sure you have the back office support. Make sure you have the systems and process. Because y'all work. I mean, before I came, y'all worked. How much time did y'all spend working on like Builder Trend and setting up the processes? How long?
Easily 16 hours a day, Monday through Saturday.
6 months.
So
long
we'd go to
time.
Lennar, and we'd show up to work at 8 a.m. at Lennar, and then I'd go down to Luke's study room, or Luke would come to my apartment, and then we'd work till like 2 a.m. and then we'd repeat, go back to work at 8 a.m. and then same thing. And it was hell.
Mm-hmm. And just working on.
Yeah, so that went on for about 6 months, and after about 6 months, it came to a point where we couldn't deliver for Hart Homes, and we were unable to deliver for Lennar. So it was a critical point where we made a decision if we're going to go all in on Hart Homes and quit Lennar, or if we were just going to give up our dream on Hart Homes and stay at Lennar. So the three of us looked at each other and we asked ourselves, when's the last time you failed at anything? And all of us said we haven't failed at anything in a long time. So we told ourselves we probably wouldn't fail if we start Hart Homes. So we all quit our jobs, and here we are today.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Well, yeah. So I think, yeah. So what we're going to do real quick, I know we're right at 12. So I want to take a photo. So if everybody can stand in front of the garage real quick. So tall people in the back, kind of filter out. Let's get everybody in front of the property. And then we'll be able to wrap. You guys can go through. Feel free to catch up with any of these guys, and then we'll call it. Sound good?